Hey guys, it's me, Devin, and today I'll be doing my first ever Tea Time Rewind video. Now what Tea Time Rewind is basically, if you follow the girls on Epic Reads, they are part of Harper Teen Publishing, and once a week on Wednesdays, they have an annual live chat where they talk about all things books, they get nerdy, they drink some tea, and they have some fun. Now they started this thing called Tea Time Rewind. Basically what it is they ask their fellow crumpets, which crumpets are what they call the fans of Tea Time, react to that week's Tea Time. So for this Tea Time Rewind, we will answer a few questions about that episode, do a challenge, and basically comment on what they did. So like Tea Time, the first thing they ask us is currently what are we reading? And for that question, I am reading 2 books. That first book I am reading is An Arc of a Little Something Different by Sandy Hall. This is a contemporary novel. Basically, it follows 14 points of view as they witness the growth of a relationship between a girl named Leah and a boy named Gabe. And the perspectives are their creating writing teacher, the barista at the Starbucks, a bench, and a squirrel, which I think that's awesome. A bench and a squirrel's perspective, like seriously, whoever thought of that? But I'm really enjoying it. I am about a third of the way through, and hopefully I'll be finishing this soon. And the last book I am currently reading is all thanks to Aubrey, because I hear her talk about this series a lot, and when they brought up the final book to the trilogy, I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to start reading it. And that book is Defiance by CJ Redwine. This book, oh my gosh. I love the 2 characters in their dual points of view. I love the setting, I love the whole idea behind it, and I have no idea why it took me this long to pick it up. I'm currently enjoying it. I did put it down so I can start a different book, which I just realized I'm reading another book, so let me show you that. And the book that I completely forgot to mention that I was reading is actually a reread for me because I'm going to a book event for this author and another author, and I figured I wanted to reread the first 2 books in this trilogy and then finish the last one, that way I could talk to her about it. And that book I'm rereading is Birthmarked by Kara M. O'Brien. This is a dystopian, and this is actually one of my favorite dystopians ever. The main character, Gaia Stone, is so strong, yet so real. Basically, in most dystopians, like Hunger Games or Divergent or whatever, the main heroine saves the day. But in this book, she does do good, but she also makes so many mistakes, and things don't always end up perfectly for her. It's nice when a strong female lead saves the day, but it's also nice when they make mistakes along the way, and this book definitely is one of my favorites ever. There's an awesome romance, but it's a realistic romance. Like, it's not just one of those, ooh, I looked into his eyes and I was in love. No, it goes slowly and gradually, picks up pace through the whole book. If you haven't picked this up, I definitely think you should, and I definitely think the ladies at Epic Reads should pick this book up as well. If you don't like the cover on this hardback, then you can definitely pick up the paperback versions that are out now, which definitely look a whole lot better. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars to these. And on to the question of the day. Normally they have us ask questions in the comments before tea time starts, and then they pick a question at random, and that's the question of the day. This question is, if you had to live in any book dystopia, which dystopia would you pick? Originally, I was going to pick Birthmarked, but I remembered that in this world, if you live outside the wall, they have a baby quota, and every midwife has to give the first 3 babies that are born that month to the Enclave, which is basically like the inner community, the wealthier community. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, no, I'm a woman, I couldn't give up my kid for the Enclave, so I couldn't live in this world. So I was thinking about it, and I actually have to go with Aubrey on this one. I haven't finished the series, but I definitely would have to pick the Maze Runner. I would rather just be stuck in a little thing called the Glade and have the option to be a runner and find my way out, to cook, to be a groundsman, to be a farmer. I think that would fit me better. Like, I like solving things instead of having like this horrible government that's like looming over you. So that's my pick. Another thing they talked about was transformations in books. There's 3 different kinds of transformations. There's the physical transformations, kind of like in Princess Diaries or She's All That. Then there's the mental transformations, and then the overall transformations that cover every section of that. And they're talking about their favorites. I have 3 favorite transformations. Number 3 has to go to Gaia Stone from this Birthmark trilogy, because she goes from one of those 16-year-old girls who's just like, I live to serve. I serve the Enclave and I love it. You know, they give us what we need. May not be the greatest life, but then as throughout the whole story and then through the rest of the trilogy, she kind of grows very strong, and she's very strong-willed, and she becomes a great female lead. So that's one of my favorite ones. This is more of a mental than a physical transformation. Now, there's a tie between second and first place, so I'm just going to show you them at random. The first one definitely has to go to Alyssa from the Girl of Fire and Thorns trilogy. Not only does she have a mental transformation from being a very down on herself, shy, self-conscious princess to being a full-fledged queen and everything that happens in this book, but she also has a physical one, but it's not the main focus. Like when people have physical transformations like Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games, when she gets picked to be in the Hunger Games, she gets, you know, waxed, she gets her hair done and everything. But her transformation, it didn't so much change who she was as it brought out who she really truly should have been. You know what I mean? Like the first book mainly is where the physical transformation takes place, and that physical transformation basically kickstarts her emotional and mental transformation, and it's one of the most beautiful transformations I ever read about. So thank you so much, Rae Carson, for writing an awesome character arc like Alyssa's. And the last character transformation that I adore has to be Brynn from Raised by Wolves. Now in this story, Brynn is a 16-year-old girl who lives with werewolves. Basically, her parents were killed when she was really little by werewolves, and the werewolf pack that saved her took her under their wing. She has a mark on her hip, I believe, that basically brands her as theirs, but she's not werewolf. She's full-blown human. She goes to school, she has, you know, she gets grounded and everything. She doesn't have any werewolf abilities. She does have this, she has been taught to think like a werewolf, so she does have these abilities and stuff, but none of them are from being a werewolf. And then she starts out as, through this whole trilogy, she is a stubborn, strong-willed, strong-minded girl, and that is, she goes from being a, not so much whiny, but from being a full-blown, like, 16-year-old girl. Like, she's tired of having all these werewolves around her. She just wants her own space. She wants to be left alone. And then through the whole trilogy, she just grows and she learns to become a leader. She learns to not be as selfish as she might have been in the future. And then if you read the series, you know how the third book ends, and that's another transformation that I think I'm glad didn't happen until the end. Like, what happened to her definitely has to be one of my favorite transformations, because she doesn't change, she doesn't give down, she doesn't give up, and that definitely is one of my favorites. So let's get on to what this whole video is about. In honor of the book The Jewel by Amy Ewing, the Tea Time Margot and Aubrey have challenged us to bedazzle something bookish. Now, before I get to what I am actually going to bedazzle, because I haven't done it yet because I still need to buy the supplies, this whole thing is based for the book The Jewel. Now, in The Jewel, in the world, basically girls of lower level living are bred to be surrogates for the higher up royalty families, because for some reason those families can no longer have kids of their own. And when I first started talking about this premise about being a surrogate, I automatically thought about the book Wither by Lauren DeStefano. It's not the whole thing isn't about you're going to become a surrogate, but what happens in Wither and everything that happens from the beginning of the book to the end of the book does have something to do with surrogacy. You know, in the Wither, the world, girls die at the age of like 21 and guys die at the age of 24 or something. So the girls have to get pregnant younger and have kids to keep the population going. And some girls are chosen or are picked to basically marry into royalty and continue those lineages. And what happens to Ryan in Wither definitely relates to what happens in the Jewel with Violet. So I just figured I'd throw that in there. And now on to what I am bedazzling. So you guys ready to see what I've bedazzled? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! What? You're confused? You really want to see what I bedazzled? Alright, hold on. Now don't get scared, but ready? Ta-da! I know, I'm really weird, but they said to bedazzle something bookish, and guess what? I am a bookish person. So I decided to add gemstones around my mouth. Hint, I'm not talking really well. And then I just added my favorite color, purple, there. So yes, there you go, Epic Read ladies. I decided to bedazzle myself, because I am something bookish. So, challenge accepted and challenge completed. Happy readings!